Hello and welcome into another live stream preview. What is going on? I am Matt O'Leary, and today I am joined by Raiders content creator Sniper Jones. What's going on, my man? How are you?
Hey, Jets fans, Matt, thank you guys for having me, man.
Absolutely excited to get in here and chop it up a little bit as we get into this New York Jets versus Las Vegas Raiders Sunday Night Football matchup. First things first, I mean, Raiders make a coaching change and look like a completely different team with Antonio Pierce. You want to talk a little bit about some of the differences we've seen so far after the coaching change?
I mean, the plague is over, brother. Josh McDaniels was running a dictatorship. You know, him coming in, I was optimistic. He has success. You can't take away the rings, um, but you can't have people do it your way or the highway. You got to be a player's coach, right? You got to have people buy into your system and also learn what works and what doesn't work. I mean, if you played high school ball, you understood that, right? And a good coach understands the player's strengths and weaknesses, and he builds off the strengths while building up the weaknesses as well, right? It can't be my way or the highway. I want it done this way, or it's not going to work at all. If not, I'm gonna bring in my own people. That's not a leader, right? And like I keep mentioning that word dictatorship, it doesn't work. Now transfer it over to Antonio Pierce. Much respect to him because number one, I'm from LA. I'm out here in Los Angeles, so I'm very happy that he has the opportunity to basically interview the rest of the season for the head coaching job next year, right? But going in to digress and kind of pedal back a little bit, going into the year, I really thought that the linebacker group, based from a talent perspective, was going to be the weakest group in our defensive side of the ball. Him being our linebackers coach, and to my surprise, the linebacker group, you can make the argument, is probably one of the strongest. You know, without the injuries that we've been dealing with the past two games. But that's a testament to Antonio Pierce, his coaching, and the leadership that he brings to the table. Go fast forward to, well, not fast forward, but this past game against the Giants. You've heard it a lot saying you got. I mean, we dog walk the Giants, right? And people will say, and it's fine. I find it comical because I'll round it back to the conversation. Is Jets fans and Raider fans are a lot alike. There's a very pessimistic side and a very optimistic side. It's very rare that there's a neutral ground, right? So the argument is, and I've heard it from Jets fans before, because I see a lot of Jets content from you guys. Matt, yours as well. You got great content, brother. Is, well, you guys played a third string quarterback. You guys should do that. You're right. But let me ask you this: when's the last time, as a Raider fan, I could say we actually dog walked a team that we should have beaten? We lost to a Bears team with the only Division II quarterback in the NFL. What does
No,
that
you're
tell you?
right.
What
Yeah,
does that
you're
tell
right.
you? So it's very. I'm excited. Again, it's one game, but we can only base on a one. It's a week to week league, right? So enjoy the win. It's looking promising. We're 1-0 because it really is a new season, and let's see what the game brings. Let's not look forward to the Dolphins or the Chiefs. Let's look forward to the Jets on Sunday. And this is a true test, not just for Antonio Pierce, but for a lot of our players as well. So I'm excited, brother. I think this team is in the right mindset. Mindset is everything. If your mind is in the right place, then the physical goes with it, right? So if you have a coach that you're willing to run through a brick wall for, that's a great start. So I'm excited, brother.
No, absolutely. And it's noticeable. You saw the locker room after that game, and I think it just shows you just how much this team really didn't like the situation that they
Oh
were
yeah,
in with McDaniels. And you're right. Like, I think a dictatorship is a perfect word to describe it because he comes from the Belichick tree. And I think he's trying to be Bill Belichick without any of the pedigree that goes along with it, which is just, recipe for disaster. But yeah, they
exactly.
look like, a much more, I don't know if motivated is the right word, but they're rallying around their coach, which is obviously a great sign. And now with a rookie quarterback is starting to rally around the rookie quarterback, Aiden O'Connell, set to
Right.
make his third start of the season. What have you saw from him so far? Things you like, things that maybe you could improve on.
Things I liked is it feels like the moment's not too big for him. Granted, his first start when he played the Chargers, he did admit, I was pretty nervous, but obviously, the light shine a little brighter in comparison to Purdue, right? So you're in the pros now, you're playing the big boys. He got his welcome to the NFL game, his first game. He got his ass whooped by Khalil Mack, right? Khalil Mack lives in the backfield, so I like that he's poised. I like that he takes command. I like that the team rallies around him. I like that he's open to whatever the coach is asking for him to perform about. And I also like the guy he's very precise. He has an arm, which is something that gives us an advantage because with Jimmy Garoppolo, what it was looking like was Jimmy Garoppolo can't throw. You know, you're obviously going to root for the quarterback that you have on your team, but you're also, you know, you're allowed to have your criticism of your quarterback as well.
Sure.
Me personally, I was never a Jimmy Garoppolo fan. So what happens on the defenses throughout the whole season was the defenses would inch closer to the box because he doesn't have a deep ball. Therefore, the defenses don't have to worry about that, right? With Aiden O'Connell, you're going to have to respect the deep ball because he has a deep ball, right? If I'm not mistaken, I think he has the most passes past 20 yards in the league so far, something along those lines, right? So he has an arm. He's precise. He commands the offensive line. And I'm excited, man. And not to mention, we're starting to unleash Josh Jacobs. So if you're a rookie quarterback, your best friend is a running back in the backfield who can actually make some moves for you and give you some breathing room, right? So when things are getting a little tough, hand the ball off. Let's get some yardage. Let's move those chains. Let's give some breathing room to Aiden O'Connell, right? And what does that do when you start getting the run game going? It opens up the passing. Let's get some play action going. Let's throw a deep ball. And once we get that comfort in Aiden O'Connell, which we've been seeing as we've progressed, he's looking more calm. Let's throw some deep shots. We have Devontae Adams. We have Trey Tucker, our rookie wide receiver, who is our speedster. And if you saw the game last week, it was a beautiful bomb to Trey Tucker, and that's what we've been missing all season. We too comfortable, too balanced, way too what's the word I'm looking for? Predictable.
Yep.
If you're too predictable, a team like the Jets defense, let's make no mistake about it, the Jets defense is a real deal. You have to respect the Jets defense, and this is a true test. Like I said, not just for Antonio Pierce, but also for Aiden O'Connell come Sunday Night Football, not just Sunday Night Football, where the whole country is going to be watching what Aiden O'Connell's made of, and also let's see what Zach Wilson's made of as well, because we also have it's not to the level of the Jets defense, but we also have a very solid defense. If I'm not mistaken, we have a top 3 defense in least yards per game allowed. So Zach Wilson's going to have to show something too. So it's going to be a fun battle of quarterback versus quarterback. Who's going to be able to finish this out? So I'm hyped, man. I hope you guys are too.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point in talking about going from Jimmy G and Aiden O'Connell, where Raiders fans, it feels like there was a little bit of a divide, if that's what they wanted to do.
Right.
And with the Jets quarterback situation, kind of the same thing. I mean, they go out there and they land Aaron Rodgers. Unfortunately, he gets hurt on the first drive of the season.
Right.
And now you're back to square one with Zach Wilson. And right now, after an ugly loss on Monday Night Football, you have fans who want to see a quarterback change. And then you have another section who want to keep riding it out with Zach Wilson. And it's funny. I just see some parallels between these two fan bases, two very passionate fan bases that they want their team to win. And with two young quarterbacks, something else you mentioned, Josh Jacobs, the Jets with Breece Hall, I think both teams in this game are going to be leaning on their running backs and trying to get the running game going. And, just have their young quarterback not try to make a mistake. I think that's how I see both these teams trying to go offensively.
Right. And the sad part about this is, of course, if you're a competitor, you want to play your opponent and beat your opponent at their best. But that's not the case, right? You guys don't have Aaron Rodgers. Me personally, I think Zach Wilson has potential, but obviously he's not to the level of Aaron Rodgers. Nobody's going to mistake the two. But you can only play who's in front of you, right? So I really think there's going to be a game of both defenses are going to give the offense a chance, right? It's just a matter of what quarterback's going to be able to put the game away. That's just my personal opinion. The Jets defense, we've seen that you guys can be lights out, but the Raiders have also shown that they could also bend, don't break, and also make some plays on the defense side of the ball as well. So what that tells me is they're going to be 3 and outs. So what that tells me as a defensive player, hey, Aiden, we got the ball for you, boss. I need you to go out there and I need you to put 7 on the board, right? Same with the Jets defense. Jets defense is stingy. They could get to the quarterback. My concern is our left tackle is dealing with a shoulder injury. So if he doesn't play, that is a very, very, very big deal. It could really tilt the outcome of the game. So that's something I'm very concerned about. And that's the blind side of our quarterback. So, I mean, need I say more, right? We need to have our quarterback comfortable. If the first 2 to 3 drives start and he starts being shaky because that D-line's getting to him, we might have a problem, right? So it's going to come down to the quarterbacks. Let's see who comes out on top.
Yeah, I totally see it, man. And you talked about the defense, and specifically something on that Raiders defense that scares me is Max Crosby getting after the quarterback. He is
My
a
man.
special player. And the Jets have their issues right now on the offensive line. They're really banged up. They're missing their best offensive lineman in Elijah Vera Tucker.
Right.
And it's kind
USC.
of been a rotating door the last few weeks here. That's someone that I have circled on the Raiders defense that you got to watch out for. And again, like kind of similarities with the teams that the Jets are built around this pass rush. The Raiders have this star stud pass rusher in Max Crosby. I think a big thing in this game is going to be the defense getting after the quarterback. And just if you could tell the Jets audience what you've seen from Max Crosby this season and just how special he can be.
Oh man. Where do I begin without sounding like a super fan? He's the heart of this team. He's the heart of this team. From not the underdog story. Everybody loves a real underdog story. Eastern Michigan, substance abuse, but through adversity, just battled through it all, and he's one of the faces of the NFL. And from his coaches to former players to his college teammates to his college coaches, everybody raves about Max Crosby. That motor never stops. Whenever your team goes up to the line of scrimmage, you're gonna have to know where Max Crosby is at. Sometimes he plays he's sometimes gonna play on one side, sometimes he's gonna play on the other side. They like to mix it up as of lately, but he's a leader. You're gonna have to double team him. I've even seen him being triple teamed, and the way some right tackles grab around his neck and there's no flag for that is absolutely criminal, right? But there's no excuses in the NFL. You're just gonna have to go out there and make a play. And like you said, you guys have injuries on your offensive line. I was talking to my boy Zoo Kruger, who you're well aware of who he is, and I was saying this from the beginning. My issue with you guys prior to Aaron Rodgers going down was your offensive line, right? Because the offensive line is the one unit on your football team that they all need to be clicking together. It is the most vital group on your offense, because if the offensive line is shaky and they're not working together, that offense is just not going to work, right? You could have individual skill pieces, but if there's no chemistry, you're done for. And so I'm very curious to see how you guys are going to go about blocking that beast. In my opinion, he's one of the guys who's going to be Defensive Player of the Year this year, right? I don't think anybody's going to argue that, right? So do you guys get a fullback on him? Do you guys chip him? Do you guys get a tight end over there? What are you guys going to do? So I kind of want to circle back and ask you that question. If you are, the Jets offensive staff, how are you game planning against a player like Max Crosby and these stump blitzes that Raider fans have seen this past week against the Giants now that Josh McDaniels is gone?
Yeah, for me, I think on just about every play, I'm having a tight end on whatever side he's on, right? Like you said, he's versatile. He could line up anywhere on the left side, on the right side. I would imagine that he would have a easier time. Not that like he's such a good player, he could have an easy time on either side. But Mekhi Becton at left tackle has held up a little bit better than their right side of the offensive line.
Right.
With the injuries right now, it's kind of up in the air who's going to be at right tackle. My guess is it's going to be Max Mitchell, who's struggled a little bit at times. So if that's the case, right, if Mitchell's your right tackle and that's where Max Crosby's lining up, then I would put probably the Jets' best blocking tight end is Jeremy Ruckert. So I would think that he would be the guy that I would utilize in that spot. They have Tyler Conklin, who's a better all-around tight end, but he's utilized more in the receiving game, where Conklin's the best blocking tight end that they have. So I'm with you. I think you have to put another body on him. I think you have to double team him, because this past week against the Chargers, you went against Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, two great pass rushers, and they really didn't do a good job of containing those guys. And it's a big reason why they lost the game. So, I think that's absolutely something that could, he's a game wrecker, and you got to make sure that you don't allow him to do that. Easier said than done, but I'm with you. I think you're lining a tight end up over there and, trying to help.
Right. My concern when going back to this conversation we're having right now on the offensive line is, and it's probably he is my favorite player on your guys' defense side of the ball, and that's Quentin Williams.
Yeah.
The problem with us is our center Andre James, whenever he deals with defensive tackles, the talent of Quentin Williams, the talent of Chris Jones in the interior, he gets absolutely blown up. So that's another concern on our offensive line, right? But Quentin Williams is an incredible player. I don't like how people talk about he's ripping off the Jets because he's only had 0.5 sacks this year.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the pressure numbers, he's still top 3 in pressures from the interior. You're right. The sack numbers aren't quite there, but it doesn't matter. He's still a dominant player.
100%. I think people who want to judge a defensive tackle based on sack numbers, I think they need to go back to the drawing board and watch some film, or somebody needs to school them on what it is that they're talking about. Because even as a defensive end, sacks to an extent is an overrated stat. A lot of factors play a role, right? What's your talent looking like, and X, Y, and Z. But my concern is the interior. If Quentin Williams disrupts us up the middle because Andre James cannot hold his block, our bread and butter and Josh Jacobs, and given that relief off of Aiden O'Connell's back is out the window, right? So we're gonna have to go to another way of going about it. Are we gonna be catching out of the backfield? What are we gonna do about it? So that's a big concern of mine that people aren't really talking about, is the interior, because make no mistake about it, that Jets defensive line is very, very goddamn good, man, and that's a very stressful if you're a fan.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you mentioned, Quinnen Williams is, headlines that group, but they rotate on the defensive line a lot. They have like 8 guys that'll go through on that rotation. And
Right.
honestly, Quentin Jefferson, who's been next to him this year, has been fantastic as well. So it's not only, Quinnen Williams. And like I said, they rotate these guys, so they like to keep them fresh. And they really get after the quarterback. So it's going to be tough on Aiden O'Connell. You brought up a little earlier on Josh Jacobs and trying
Right.
to get into running the ball, and something I noticed with Jacobs this year, he's still getting the touches, but his yards per attempt is down a little bit this year. What do you think the biggest reason for that is?
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I mentioned this on my live space last week, which I guess I feel like as fans there is certain. I mean, even yourself, I'm sure you could agree to this. Is we're all fans and we love the sport, but there's just certain positional groups that you are more savvy and more knowledgeable about than other positional groups. For me, is the offensive and defensive line, and something that goes swept under the rug is how last year we were a power scheme offensive line, and it worked out great. I mean, a running back doesn't have the rushing title by himself unless you're Barry Sanders, right? So you can attest to that to your offensive line. And there's a saying that goes, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So this year, the offensive line is asked to lose weight, get a little slimmer. Let's go ahead to a zone scheme. Thank you, Josh McDaniels. We love you for that. And as you can tell, Josh Jacobs has been nowhere to be found the past couple games prior to the Giants game. I'm sorry. So now we're going back to what's been working, to what we know. And again, it goes back to a testament to Antonio Pierce and seeing the strengths of his team. And let's go back to that. Let's not try to change things up. Let's build off of our strengths and continue to change the dynamic of what it takes to win, right? But with that being said, I'm happy. We're doing what works. You have these coaches bringing in their players to see, hey, what do you guys think about this? As opposed to the coaching staff just saying, this is what I think is going to happen, so therefore the players got to do it. No. What do you think works? Let's try this out. Does this work for you? I see this as a strength of yours. Let's go ahead and work this out. So you see a lot of power. And, the proof is in the pudding, so to speak, right? Josh Jacobs, 2 touchdowns. He was over 100, but then he got tackled in the backfield, so he went under 100 back again. But Josh Jacobs looks hungry. He looks committed. He looks like he's back to his old self. Granted, it's one game, but facial expressions, body language, it doesn't lie, right? You even watch the mic'd up videos for that the Raiders posted on YouTube. This team is ready. This team is hyped, and they're ready to fight for one another. You see players on the sideline jump up for excitement when a player like Hunter Renfrow, who's been MIA all year, catches a ball and he goes, for the first down, right? So I'm excited, man. I think that Josh Jacobs is going to play a vital role in whether we win or lose, which goes back to what I said about Quinnen Williams. If we stop Quinnen Williams, and I mentioned Quinnen Williams because he's incredible, right?
Yeah.
Defensive tackle is vital. If you're able to somehow get Quinnen Williams out of the game, we have a chance. But I think Josh Jacobs, at least I hope so. He has a solid game for us, and he starts giving Aiden O'Connell some breathing room. We'll see how it goes, though. We'll see how it goes. What I will attest to your defense is you guys have that the recipe for what makes a championship pedigree. Because look at what the Eagles have. The Eagles don't have a front seven. The Eagles have a front seven with a rotational front seven that some of those players that aren't even starters are starters on another team. So that you can never have enough players on your front seven. And what does that do? If you have players that are starters on another team that are backups, what does that do to the offensive line? You're just tiring them out. They're seeing a fresh face, a fresh player. These are 300-pounders that you're coming at, right? That were sitting on the bench. So, again, it's a mind game. So we're going to see who has the best mind game come Sunday.
Yeah, you're 100% spot on. And I think that's a big reason why, myself and other Jet fans are so frustrated right now is because we see an elite level defense, especially, on that front seven and, the defensive line and the three great cornerbacks and a special teams unit that is one of the tops in the NFL. And it's just the offense is holding this team back so much. And it feels like it's wasting talent on the defense, which is just so frustrating. But my buddy Jets Chaos is in the chat. He goes, final score 0-0, talking about these defenses, which is too good. Anyone watching in the chat, if you have any questions, make sure to drop them in. We'll get to them as we go along here. But 0-0 might be a little bit extreme, but honestly, I don't know if either of these teams get to 20 points. I think we're looking at like a 16-13 kind of game here.
Okay. I don't disagree. Also, because of the simple fact that as a Raider fan, we're kind of going into the world of the unknown, right? Like I mentioned, to us, it's a new season. Antonio Pierce, it's your second game. Aiden O'Connell, this is a real defense, so let's see what you're made of. This is your first test as a pro, right? Now that we gave you the keys to the car. Now we need you to drive it, right? It's not just let's throw you in because somebody's hurt. This is your team, Aiden. So lead us, right? With that being said, I can see Aiden O'Connell having his struggles. I can see Aiden O'Connell throwing a pick. I can see Aiden O'Connell getting sacked. This isn't out of the realm of possibility. The Jets have been doing this all season. The Jets beat the Eagles. You know what I mean? So that's a lot of pressure on a young man, right? But again, it goes back to what I was mentioning earlier. I really think this is going to come down to what quarterback can put the game away. The defenses likely than not will show up, and they're going to give the quarterback of both teams an equal opportunity. Go get some points on the board for us. We need you guys to get this. But with that being said, I kind of want to ask you a question because Raiders fans are equally as curious. And you being a big Jets fan, I wonder. Your first question was culture, right? About how it feels like to have Antonio Pierce here and how our culture is on the rise. Our stock is up as far as our culture. But seeing a lot of Jets fans and having a brother who's a Jets fan, I want to ask you directly, what's the culture looking like with the Jets right now? Does the majority of the fan base feel like there's optimism because, you guys do have talent and you guys have been able to win games? Or do you guys feel like there's absolutely no way you guys can make a run with Zach Wilson? I'm very curious.
Yeah, see, the tough thing is, speaking for myself, I am a big Robert Saleh fan. I think given what he's dealt with at specifically the quarterback position, but we'll just say offense in general, I think he is a great culture builder. I think he gets his team ready to play every week. There's some in-game management things that I think he can improve on, but guys love playing for him. You talk about what guys wanted to run through a wall for Antonio Pierce. Same thing. When he first got here, his first year, the defense was worse in the league. Last 2 years, they're going to be top 10 units. I think he's done a great job of developing young talent, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I would really like to see him with, Aaron Rodgers, really, but we'll just even say a legitimate quarterback to really get a true evaluation on him. With Zach, I think if they are to get themselves in a spot where they could be a playoff team this year, I think it's going to look a lot like the 2009 Jets when they had a rookie Mark Sanchez at quarterback. It's going to be on the backs of an elite level defense and a run game. And they're just going to ask Zach Wilson not to make mistakes. And, he's cut the interception numbers down, which is good, but fumbles have become an issue, which, we talked earlier about Max Crosby at a strip sack or, losing a fumble is absolutely something I'm trying to keep my eye on in this game and something that I'm worried about. But I think most Jet fans are very comfortable with the culture that is being built, but are at the same time frustrated that they're in this situation right now with, Zach Wilson, who's supposed to be the backup quarterback this year, and at times feels like he and the offense is holding them back.
Right. And then my follow-up question to that is Nathaniel Hackett. Do you feel Nathaniel Hackett has helped Zach Wilson in any way? Or do you think Nathaniel Hackett simply came over here to be, I don't want to say buddy. I think that's a poor choice of words, but kind of, well, we know he came in here because of Aaron Rodgers, right? Do you feel like he's doing substantial work with Zach Wilson, and Zach Wilson's just not living up to the expectation? Or do you think the teaching and the coaching is just not there in Nathaniel Hackett to bring out the best out of Zach Wilson? Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so this is where I think it's complicated because I don't think Nathaniel Hackett's been a very good play caller this year. I think the as an offensive coordinator, he's been lacking. It hasn't been great. Um, Zach got a little bit better this year, so I guess like you could count that as a step in the right direction. It's not to the point where he needs to be, but like I said, the interception numbers have gone down. He feels like he's a little bit more of a confident thrower because by the time he got benched for the second time last year, his confidence level was just completely shot.
Right.
Um, and his completion percentage has gone up, which is a great sign, but they still struggle to get the ball in the end zone. Even on the ground, they have 8 total offensive touchdowns in 8 games, 3 in their last 4 games. If you go back his last 11 starts, they have 10 total touchdowns in his last 11 starts. So,
Right.
Eventually that I think some of the blame has to go on the quarterback. But at the same time, like I don't know if Nathaniel Hackett is here if he's not bringing Aaron Rodgers along for the ride. Like, I think a big reason why they hired him is because they wanted to get Aaron Rodgers in the
Right.
offseason.
Right.
And him and Aaron Rodgers have a relationship. And it obviously worked well in Green Bay the years
Right.
where they were there. So I understand them wanting to recreate that. But without the Rodgers element, I don't think Hackett by himself is great.
Gotcha. And I think it's comical how some fans, and you see the comments all the time, Zach Wilson holds on to the ball too long. I'm sorry.
Yep.
And I find that comical when people say he holds on to the ball too long. Well, if nothing's open, what do you expect the guy to do? Granted, and he is athletic. We've seen him run, right? But if it's just not there and the play calling's not there, what do you expect the guy to do? The point you're taught as a quarterback to stand in the pocket and deliver the throw. And if all else fails, you run, and if you see an opening, you run and you slide so you don't get hit. It's pretty simple. But if the play calling is just not there, that's why I asked you the question to begin with. If the play is just not there, what do you expect the quarterback to do? So when I hear fans say, "Well, he holds on to the ball too long," if there's nobody open, what do you expect the guy to do? Right? Just throw it out there. Oh well, let's see what happens. That's how interceptions are made. That's how you get benched, right? That's how you start seeing your third string quarterback come in. That's when you see the whole New York fan base completely turn on you, and everybody knows that New York is it's rough out there. It's a Shark Tank out there, right? And not everybody's built for those lights. Okay, so sometimes I feel like people really need to pump the brakes a little bit and start questioning the play calling, and maybe even get some all-22 film. And I know a lot of people don't want to do that, but Zach Wilson's not as bad as people think, right? I'll leave it at that.
There we go. Oh, look, a rare Zach Wilson positivity from someone from an opposing fan base. A lot of Jeff fans will take that and be happy with that one. Yeah, it's tough right now on the off. I think fans are just really frustrated on the offensive side of the ball because, like I said, it feels like that's what's holding this team back right now with the talent on the defensive side and on special teams. In this matchup, right? We talked a lot about the pass rush of both of these teams. If you're, you as the Raiders, right, or just
Right.
in general, you look at the Jets offense and defense, how would you go about attacking the New York Jets offense? And then from I'll flip it on the defensive side of things, how would you look to go after this Jets defense?
On the Jets defense side of the ball, again, pressure. And when Antonio Pierce got the job, he mentioned a little snippet, and I guess that falls under the cracks, is I'm going to unleash Patrick Graham, our defensive coordinator. So you start to think about that. What does that mean? I'm going to unleash Patrick Graham. My logical thinking with that is Josh McDaniels had a hold on what Patrick Graham could call, right? That's the logical reasoning for it. And it kind of makes sense because when you look at the Giants game, when's the last time you saw the Raiders had 8 sacks? Right? That's unheard of. Right? I can't tell you the last time I saw that, right? So blitz packages, stunt packages, don't give up anything over the top because Zach Wilson does have an arm. I'm not gonna say I'm not worried about Zach Wilson because every game is different, right? But it'll give me comfort if I see that the first few drives he starts to get rattled. Bring the pressure, and if we give up a couple first downs or a touchdown, that's fine. But we're sending a message, right? If we have the option, let's defer and let's go on defense. Let's set the tone on defense, right? So start getting Zach Wilson rattled. And it's always about it's a mind game. Let's confuse the quarterback, right? And I think we have a lot of underrated players. One of them being Robert Spillane. The guy's playing with a broken hand. That's old school mentality, right? On the offense side of the ball, if I'm Bo Hardeggy, the offensive coordinator, Aiden, play to your strengths, right? Let's start this again. Simple football, simple tactics, right? Let's set up the run. Let's see when we can get going. Me, I tend to be a little more on the risky side. As a defense, what are you expecting? Run. Let's go for the pass. If not, punt it. Let's get down. No, I'm a little more risky. Again, this is just me. You're expecting a run. Let's do a play action. Let's go for a bomb. Respect my arm from the get-go. Let's have that defense kind of like press off, and then we can start opening up the gas for Josh Jacobs. But what I'm trying to say with that is throw the defense off guard by understanding what Aiden O'Connell is made of. This isn't Jimmy Garoppolo. He can throw the ball. You see Jimmy Garoppolo throwing these balls in the air that just look like UFO saucers. They just hang up there for so long, right? That's not Aiden O'Connell. He can zip it. He can throw the ball. He can he takes command of the offense. And he couldn't do that with Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels wanted it one way or the highway, which is one of the reasons why it didn't work with Derek Carr. When you saw Derek Carr play with John Gruden gave him freedom. If something doesn't look right, go ahead and audible out of that, and I'll give you the trust in you, the quarterback on the field, to make the right call, right? That didn't work with Josh McDaniels. Now you see Aiden O'Connell taking command of the defense, seeing what's out there, and if it doesn't work, call an audible, get out of it, and do something else. But give them the freedom, but also give them the confidence, like, hey, even if you make a mistake, it's fine. Make your mistakes. We ride by you. You're human. You're meant to make mistakes, but let's get after it and let's make a better play the next drive, right? So set up the run game, play action, get the ball in Devontae Adams' hands, which is going to be very nice. I want to see how he matches up with your secondary, right? And you utilize your tight ends. We have Michael Mayer, our rookie out of Notre Dame, he's called baby Gronk for a reason. Yep. He wasn't doing anything under Josh McDaniels, which blows my mind, But you see him starting to come into his own. He's getting more catches. He's getting more involved. Hunter Renfrow, utilize the middle of the second level of the Jets defense. I don't know anybody who can guard Hunter Renfrow at his best up the middle. He's called third and Renfrow for a reason. So can your linebackers cover the guy? Can your nickel cover him? Yes and no, because we do have a lot of weapons. Who's going to cover Jacoby Myers? Jacoby Myers, in my opinion, is one of the sneakiest offensive pickups we had this season.
He's been great.
So, let's see how it goes. But comfortability and support, that's all Aiden O'Connell really asked for. So let's see how it goes, man.
Yeah, I love the answer. And from, Jets side of things, I think it's going to be a similar game plan. So offensively, I would expect the Jets to lean on the run game. I was looking before doing my prep for, this game, and the Raiders run defense, they allow the second most rush yards against. So I would think, I'm just trying to smash mouth the ball. And for the passing game, like obviously, you can't run it every single play. For the passing game, I would look for a lot of quick passes over the middle of the field. I think part of the issue against the Chargers, and especially with some offensive line issues, and we talked a ton on this stream about Max Crosby, I think you have to focus on getting the ball out quick and getting it to your players in space. Garrett Wilson on a slant over the middle of the field, working the tight ends over the middle of the field. I think that's the route that I would look to go, and building off the play action. That's something that worked well for the Jets against the Eagles and against the Chiefs earlier this year. They had the play action game going well. So that from the passing attack, I think that's where I'm looking. And then On the defensive side of things, I am trying to load the box and make Aiden O'Connell beat us deep. And he has a much better arm than Jimmy Garoppolo.
Right.
As a rookie quarterback, just trying to do these things to confuse him and get after, get some pressure in his face, contain the run, and make him beat you with his arm, which is a big test. I'm not saying that he can't do it. Of course, there's absolutely a scenario where he can do it, but I think, getting pressure on both these quarterbacks, forcing them into mistakes, whichever defense I think comes away with more turnovers, or whichever team wins the turnover battle, I think that's who wins this game on Sunday night.
I hear you, brother. I hear it's gonna be a good one for sure. I think we're both we mentioned this earlier, how we're both similar in a way. We both have a certain culture that we're trying to instill in our fan base, right? We all are on one side, the Jets fans. Zach Wilson sucks, yada yada. You hear this all the time. And there's also other people on the side of Zach Wilson has talent. He just has to get the support that he needs, right? I tend to be a little bit more on the right side, right? Same with Aiden O'Connell. It's going to come down to what quarterback makes the least mistakes. What quarterback makes the least mistakes, but obviously we know there's more of a blend in there that meets the eye. Again, for me, because I want to ask you what your concerns are. For me, my concern is the offensive line. If Colton Miller is not playing, it could be a long night. It could be a long night. So dink and dunk, get the ball out quick. The same formula you mentioned, goes the same for Aiden O'Connell, right? Don't try to just stand in the pocket and look for the deep all the time, go for the home run play. No, let's just move the chains, hand the ball off, dink and dunk, a couple of play actions, get the defense off balance, and then just take a deep shot. We have Devontae Adams for a reason. Let's utilize him, right? But my concern is that offensive line against your defensive front seven. That's going to be the biggest test. And again, Antonio Pierce has the biggest test. Aiden O'Connell's got the biggest test. This offensive line's got the biggest test. Everybody's got a huge test on Sunday, and it's on Sunday Night Football. So if you're not excited for this game, I got to question your fandom, right?
Yeah, you got to get that pulse check.
Right. It's a big game for both sides, because we gotta understand who we have moving forward. We have a lot of interviews moving forward for the rest of the season, right? As for you guys, I'm of the mindset of, again, from what I've seen, is if Zach Wilson can just win, he doesn't have to be lights out. As long as he wins and he puts W's on the win column for you guys, and Aaron Rodgers is able to come back, that's all you guys need, right? It doesn't matter who's under quarterback, but if you're winning and he gives you the opportunity to have your Hall of Famer come in and just, hit a home run at the end, you loaded the bases, just hit the home run. Man, like, who knows where you guys can go. So for those people that are just saying, oh, well, we can't win with Zach Wilson, this team sucks. I've heard it all the time, and it's really annoying if you really think about it. If the team sucks so bad and you don't believe in Zach Wilson and you think the season's done, then go do something else. Then don't watch the games anymore. You're a grown man with a family. Go out with your kids, have a trip, yada yada. Don't stand in front of a TV and just be like this, pessimistic and mad for no reason. Support your team and just shut up. Have your criticisms, but Zach Wilson's your quarterback. Support your quarterback, right? And he has been winning, kind of like the Jimmy Garoppolo formula. He's not the best quarterback in the world, but he in San Francisco, regardless of what the formula of the roster was, he was winning. So you can't take that from him. Same with Zach Wilson. As long as he's winning, whether it's ugly, whatever, you never apologize for a W in the NFL. So if you guys win enough to get you in the playoff picture, and Aaron Rodgers comes in this season, once you make the dance, anything is possible, right?
100%. They're just kind of trying to stay afloat, man. Just trying to stay afloat until Aaron Rodgers and stack W's. That's why, during the win streak, they were winning. It was ugly, but I was just saying, man, like, doesn't matter if it's ugly. Just, win. Just find a way to get a W on the board there.
Right.
Yeah, and you're talking about concerns, very, very similar. I'll be a little more. It's offensive line, but more specifically the right side of that offensive line, because rookie Joe Tippmann will be playing center. He's been really solid. Mekhi Becton and Laken Tomlinson on the left side have held their own. They've been pretty good.
Right.
It's really that right side of the line. I'm going to guess that Max Mitchell, who played guard last week, gets moved back out to tackle. And then either Roger Saffold, who they just signed to the practice squad, or Xavier Newman is going to play right guard. But not an ideal situation on that right side of the line. It's tough. We have a question for you actually from Brian Bogan. He wants to know if you've ever been to Allegiant Stadium. He's driven by it a few times while traveling, and he says it looks awesome.
Yes, I've been to Allegiant Stadium. If you've ever been to Vegas, you know as you're entering the strip, the highway's a little lower to the ground comparison to the street. So the stadium kind of hovers over the highway. So when I first saw the stadium, the first word that came out of my mouth was intimidating. When you go there and even from the outside, you look at it like, wow, that is a Raider stadium. It's a beautiful stadium. Definitely one of a kind. It's a must go to for sure. It's very Vegas, which I'm not a huge fan of for the simple fact that I'm more tradition.
Right.
And like it'll never be what the Oakland Coliseum was, right? But I mean, Vegas and the Coliseum is two different worlds. But as far as like the structure is, it's beautiful. It's a must go to. If things would have shaped up in a better situation, I would have been at that game this year, right? I'm glad I didn't though, because Aaron Rodgers ain't there and situations have changed. So, but I digress. But yeah, I've been at Allegiant Stadium, beautiful stadium. Unfortunately, I went 2 years ago and we got absolutely embarrassed by the Kansas City Chiefs. And it was about a 60-40 in favor of the Chiefs as far as attendance. It wasn't pretty, but to answer your question, yes, I've been to Allegiant Stadium and I plan on going again soon. So it's a must go to.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. As a Jet fan, I'm very, very jealous because one, the Jets share a stadium with the Giants, which is expected in the area, but it's such a plain cookie cutter, like vanilla stadium. There's nothing really special about it. It looks like a big air conditioning unit. Uh, so it's, a lot of Jet fans would love if they had their own stadium, whether it be in Jersey or back on, Long Island where they originally were in Queens.
Right.
A lot of people are rooting for that. It'd be nice, but unfortunately, I don't think that's happening anytime soon.
I hear you.
For just, as we are beginning to get to the close here, I want to get like any final predictions, final thoughts, and maybe a score prediction on what's going to happen on Sunday.
It's really hard for me to say score predictions because just the game is so fluid that anything could happen at any given moment. I'll say this to keep it short and sweet. I think when it comes down to it, at the very base of the heart of the game, I think we end up sneaking away with a W because our momentum is high right now. This team is on a resurgence at the moment. We have a new blood, so to speak. We have a new reason for optimism moving forward. Antonio Pierce has got this team ready to go. It's a jungle out there, right? And everybody's looking like predators out there. This team is playing for one another. They're excited. And I mean, if you saw the Giants game, it was a beautiful thing to watch. I was seeing the blowout by halftime, but in the back of my head, that Raider trauma is just don't mess this up. Just don't mess this up, please. Right. But again, everything that we talked about comes around full circle. Defenses are expected to both perform. It's about what quarterback can close out the game. And I just feel like Aiden O'Connell has the potential to close out the game, more so because of just the culture that we're building right now, the rise that we're on, the stock that we're on right now, the momentum that we're on right now. Because football, and just like any game, baseball, basketball, it's a game of momentum as the season progresses, right? Some people start high, then finish low. Some people start low, then finish off and close off strong. And I think we're on the right trajectory. The first quarter and a half of the year, we were this way. And now, with all the changes and everything that's made, we're starting to go on an upward trajectory. So we got the skilled players to finish out games, players that have been there. So I think that the Raiders sneak away with a W at Allegiant, and we're 2-0, or we're on a 2-0 streak. That's just my personal opinion, and I try to be as unbiased as possible. I just think right now is our moment, but it's definitely not going to be an easy game, and it's not going to be a high-scoring game. But I think the Raiders sneak out with a W on this one. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Jets here, but I don't think it's not impossible for the Raiders to win this game.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not saying it's gonna be a blow. I think 16-10, 17-14, something like that, low scoring, tight game, defensive battle. I do agree that the Raiders team does look different. I think this Jets team is going to play a little bit desperate in this game, coming off a loss at home against the Chargers on Monday night. They have 2 divisional games after this against Buffalo and the Dolphins. So I think they know like they need this game to stay alive, and kind of the same thing for the Raiders. And I wouldn't be shocked if the Raiders won this game at all. I think as I said, both defense I think have a good day. I think special teams is going to play a big factor in this game as well.
Right.
But I think Brees Hall has a big run in this game to put it away late. But I'll say low scoring, 16-13, ugly defensive battle here on
Yep.
Sunday Night Football. Maybe not one that the national football fan loves. So tuning into a primetime game, but a tight back and forth game for both these teams on Sunday night. Where can people find your stuff if they want to follow along with you, Sniper Jones?
Follow me on Twitter. That's my main platform. I'm eventually gonna expand over to the other major platforms like YouTube. Start doing film talks and conversations and stuff like that. But everything Raiders, man, just follow me on Twitter at Raider Sniper, and let's have a conversation. Let's have some fun.
Love it. Thank you so much to Sniper Jones for joining me today. I am Matt O'Leary, and we'll catch you next time.